All right, everybody. This is kind of like a long form. How did I manage the markets today? What did I do wrong? What did I do good? This is kind of going to be the first daily recap to start our Discord channel off with. So appreciate you for checking it out. This is what we're going to do. I'm just going to recap my thought process over my trading today and go over what I did wrong, what I could have done better, and hopefully there's some valuable information that people can gain from what I'm about to go over. So let's jump right in, I take it. So we were trading the Australian futures today, obviously, as you could see if you were already trading along with us or if you were paying attention to our social media accounts. This morning, we had range-bound conditions. Essentially, we had a high over here, which kind of broke out of this support structure that we made from our highs yesterday into market close, and then our overnight support resistance kind of stayed the same. Essentially, our indicator printed out that we wanted to take a short trade, but as you can see, zooming out here, we just dragged this. This is a support resistance structure, so I'm not going to short a bounce zone. Where we broke through here, we turned it into support, support, resistance, resistance. So there's no way I was going to short this. I just wasn't going to do it. So I completely ignored that signal. You could have actually, in hindsight, went long off of that signal, but I didn't want to touch anything until we had a breakout to the downside, which kind of looks something like this. Let me see. Where is that at? Apologies. Apologies. Oh, somewhere here. Path. So I would have liked to see something like this, and I would have shorted this zone here. So we would have had a breakdown, and then this would have been our support turned resistance again. I would have shorted this level in here and then wanted to see the market continue to the downside, or I wanted to see a breakout to the upside. I had this position marked out as resistance, but as you can see, I'm zoomed out pretty good on my chart. But as time was moving, my label actually got hidden over here. This was July resistance. If I go ahead and turn off my lines here and actually zoom out, this was a pretty obvious one here, right? We had our zone right here. It's a big zone, but didn't mean to make it that big. There we go. And that's what that was. Like, if I would have seen my label, I would not have taken that trade. I would have just sat on my hands today completely. But that label got disappeared. There's really nothing else I can say to it. It's my fault, I guess. I didn't realize what that resistance was coming from, but it is what it is. You can only manage the trade as best as you can once you put it on. So that was July resistance, right? Let's go ahead and turn our indicator back on. Originally, that was the game plan. This is July resistance. I didn't know it at the time. So I'm saying I want to see a breakout of this zone here. And I'm just going to highlight it. I wanted to see a breakout of this zone. We got that breakout of this zone. And my indicator also is telling me to take a buy signal here. So what I was doing essentially is I had my long order tool here. And there's my target 3 and my target 1. And this was going to be, my stop was at 450 originally. A 3.12 to 1 odds trade. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a really good trade. But then I was like, well, hang on a minute. Market started really selling off against me. And I'm thinking, well, this is a really strong support cluster. I'm going to get stopped out immediately. I don't want my stop loss to be there. This was my thought process as I was just kind of looking at the chart. I was like, okay, buyers, 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 buyer. Okay, you get the fucking point. Everybody's going to be buying here. So I moved my stop loss down to where my indicator actually told me to have it. And I'm still at a 2 to 1 trade. That is okay by me. So that's how I was actually able to stay in this trade. If people were in our free chat in our Discord, you didn't get the memo to move your stop down. I had actually moved my stop down, keeping it at a 2-to-1 trade. I would not move my stop loss any other time. If my first entry was a 2-to-1 entry, I'm not moving my stop loss. But I had a little bit of wiggle room there to get away with that. So that's how I was able to mitigate losing $350 today and turning it into only oh, did it reset? No, $105 loss. So as markets rallied, when the Fed minutes came out, this is actually what this rally was here. And I was actually able to trim same price that I put in our Discord at 615. And that actually lowered my risk by 37%, leaving my stop loss where it was originally. So I actually moved my stop loss back up to our original placement, and that is how I only lost $105 instead of $350 by shaving that 37% risk. I took that profit, and then markets had to go against me on my 2 remaining contracts, and then against me by 2. So essentially, by shaving that, you double that. So I took 8 points off on the top, which means I also took 8 points off on the bottom, so 16 total. So pretty nifty. Almost that actually almost shaved my risk by over 45%, almost half. Actually, no, it was 66%. Yeah, it's crazy. I had that completely backwards. My risk stayed on at 37%, 33%. Oh well, it's the end of the day. Do the math. The math checked out. Shaved one at 615 originally, stop loss of 450, and I only lost $105 when I was risking 350. So do the math. Essentially shaved off 67% of my risk. So yeah, math was a little wonky, but you get the whole entire idea. Sometimes when you can shave a little bit and not move your stop loss, you kind of allow some room for that trade to breathe, right? So if this was any other day, let's kind of just recap onto a different day. Let's zoom back in. I don't want this video to be too long, but that was essentially how we traded that day. Today, if you want to continue listening on, you can, but that was the recap for today. So essentially, let's go back in time and look at a trade, right? So let's just say this was my trade setup that we took yesterday. And I wanted to take a long position trade here. And I don't know, move my little trigger up here. So this would be target 1 is a 2.7. Now let's just say you only want a 3. So you can actually shave in July. This is July's resistance zone, but now my label is way over here. See this stupid fucking thing? That fucks me up all the time. I gotta just like write it with a fucking, I don't know. But anyway, so that disappears. I gotta figure out why that always disappears. So this is actually July's resistance area. So this would have been perfect target, 3-to-1, right? Let's say you want to take a little bit off at your 1R risk. Say you're trading with 3 contracts and you want to take 1R off. So essentially what that means is if you're risking in this scenario 750 pips, so 7.5 points, you're going to take 1 contract off 7.5 points up. So that means you're putting 15 points in your bucket. So those other 2 can drop down. So if you're originally risking 300% on this trade for a $240 stop loss to make $735, drop this down to 2, right? So this isn't working right. Yeah, drop this down to 2. That's what you would have left on. That's a $160 risk that you still have on, right? So if you're actually going to follow along here, so you have 2 contracts that can come against you $160, right? But I just said we're going to take 1 contract off at 1R. So that puts $80 in your pocket, right? So $160 is your risk on the table, but you took the risk off from that 1 contract and you put $80 in your pocket. So you're risking 160 if the market moves against you, and it's going to take that 80 also. So your only risk left on this trade is $80, right? So you're risking $80 to continue to come up for your 3-to-1 trade at two contracts for 480 plus 80, so $560 with a $80 risk. It's the best way to manage your risk if you're somebody who likes to lock in profit. So that's kind of a simple way. You can watch that. I'll probably make a separate video just covering that because it is a little bit tricky, but that is something that you can really utilize because, in this situation, if I would have moved my stop loss to break even or 1 point in break even, this wick down here would have actually taken you out of your position. So instead of going break even and being afraid of giving away profits, just cut your risk by 67%. Just take it off. If you're okay with losing $300, $400, you better be okay with losing 80 and let that thing run. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the markets. It's just price action on a chart. So essentially, that's kind of all I had for our recap today. Hopefully tomorrow will give us a little bit better readings. Today was a little bit choppy and indecisive. Now that the Fed meetings news is out, I know that this is my July resistance. I'm not going to lose track of that again. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.